Hello, welcome to my Learn Salesforce Flows training session. In this fifth session, I went over three key concepts. The first two are being released with Spring 21 and they are brand new. The scheduled path flow, send HTML email action, and the third one is the scheduled triggered flow functionality that was already readily available. Now our first use case is a scenario where we took the opportunity record and then we created a task for the salesperson to follow up on, and then we created an email to the manager to check the outcome of the task. And when generating the email, we use the scheduled path and also the HTML send email action. And our second scenario was a use case where we created a scheduled triggered flow to run once a week. It would take all the opportunity records that would meet a certain criteria, and it would create tasks again to follow up on those opportunity records. Now, the important part of this kind of use case is the use of decision elements so that we rule out all the records that we processed last week or the records that have already been followed up on. In the sixth session, I'm going to have an Ask Me Anything type of session. So please join that session if you have any questions so that you can get those questions answered. Enjoy the recording. What have we done so far? Let's go over that. And all the past videos are now on YouTube. The first session was all the popular flow types we've done: screen, auto-launched, and record-triggered pre-save and after-save, before save and after save. And then in the second session, we focused on screen flows. Third session, we have done the loops. And in today's session, we are going to focus on better than TV. Thanks, Rick. Today, we are going to focus on Spring 21 stuff, right? So let me just prepare my screen. Let me take my chat window to the second screen. So today we are going to focus on Spring 21 stuff. Last time we have done also Spring 21 in the fourth session. In the fourth session, we have done some Spring 21 stuff. And today what we are going to do is we have, in this release, we have scheduled path come in, and also we have an HTML email action that we can use in Spring 21. And there's also a scheduled triggered flow functionality that we've always had. I mean, I think we've had that a couple of releases now that we are going to look at. We're going to build also a scheduled triggered flow. Let me share my screen and then show you what we are going to be working on today. So is this big enough for you? Let me just make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So the first thing that we are going to be working on is going to be the Spring 21 example, the demo. And this is going to be actually a very simple flow. It's right here. It's a flow that triggers based on some entry conditions. It triggers on opportunity object based on some entry conditions, and it creates a task immediately. And then the original intention is that it sends an email a week after but to be able to demonstrate the functionality and to see the email, we're going to do that like in an hour. I'm going to show you how it sends an email in an hour. But the original use case, the idea is that the system will go through through the newly created and updated opportunities. And if the opportunity is a large opportunity, it creates a task for the owner, and it says, go ahead and make sure that you bring or take this opportunity to the bid review meeting, the weekly meeting. And if, just in case they fail to do that, it sends the manager an email saying, make sure that this large opportunity is reviewed. So this HTML email functionality is brand new, and these scheduled paths are brand new with Spring 21. This is a Spring 21 preview instance right now. And we are not limited to only 2 paths. We can create 3 or 4 different paths. They can be all on different schedules. So this is the first one. And the outcome will be something like this. This will be the task. Bring the opportunity to the weekly bid review meeting. And it is going to also send an email after a certain period of time that we are going to determine the flow. And the other one, the other example we are going to see, this is going to be a schedule triggered flow. And this schedule triggered flow, what it does is it goes through all the opportunities weekly. So it is scheduled on a certain date and time. I scheduled it only one time, but the use case would be that it would go through the opportunities weekly. It would look for opportunities that are created after a certain date that are not closed yet. And it would look for activities, recent activities, and it would look for recent tasks that are closed. And if it cannot find those, it is going to create a task to remind the owner to call the client for engagement. So what this is going to make sure, if there is no activity on the opportunity and the opportunity is open, it's going to ask the owner to call the prospect client. So that is going to be the second use case. So far, so good, I guess. So let's get started. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start our flow. Just let me make sure that we don't have anything active here. Yeah, well, these are the system generated flows, so that they don't matter. Okay, so when we do a scheduled path flow, this is based on the record triggered flow. And to be able to do all kinds of different functionality to create new tasks and so on, what we would want to do here is we would want to do an after save flow. So after the record is saved and the record is created or updated, we want to run this flow. And our object here is going to be opportunity. Now, when do we want to run this flow? We don't want the stage to be closed one. We don't want the stage to be closed last. And we just want to run this one on large deals, whatever large deals are in our organization. And for that, I'm going to use greater than $50,000. So what I want to do here is I don't want to run this because this is going to create a task and then it's going to send out an email. I don't want to run this multiple times. Whenever somebody updates the opportunity, I don't want to end up running this multiple times, that's where this decision criteria here, this enhanced entry criteria comes in handy. So I will select only when a record is updated to meet the condition requirements. So the first time this opportunity meets this requirement, meaning it's not in close won or close lost state, and the amount is greater than 50,000, it's going to run this flow. So we are going to add a task creation here. Create records. And we want to use separate resources and literal values for our task. So what I want to do is I want to assign the due date a week from now, right? So to be able to do that, I want to create a new resource, and this new resource is going to be a formula. And it's going to be of the date time type. I'm going to use flow current date and time. And I'm going to add 7 days to it. This is our formula that we will use to determine the date. That's 1 week from the date of the flow. So owner is going to be $record owner of the opportunity. And the what ID related to which record is going to be record ID. It's going to be related to our opportunity. And status is going to be not started. Let me see if I forgot anything here. Okay. So yeah, well, we want to assign a subject to it. Let's call this one, take the opportunity to the bid review meeting. So let me get out of this auto layout thing, because I want to add a scheduled path. I don't know how to do that over there. So I want to add another path. I'm going to call this one 1 week later. That's the intention, right? That's how I would set it up in a normal scenario. Now, the thing about scheduled paths, which is really cool, is you can actually use a date in relation to your flow run date and time. And you can also relate your action to any date or time field that's on the record itself. So you can use the close date, for example. In our case, I'm going to use when the opportunity is created or updated. And my offset options are going to be days after, days before, hours after, hours before. So in the normal use case scenario, what I would do is I would say I want 7 days after. Since this is going to be very hard to test, for now I'm going to say hours after and 1. The interesting thing about this is it does not take any decimal numbers here. So there is no way where you can assign something less than an hour. I guess what you could do is you could do a workaround where you create a date and time field on the record itself that could be, let's say, half an hour before now, and then use 1 hour later off of that or something like that. You could work around it, but it would be too cumbersome. So yeah, so I created that schedule path. Now I want to send an email out. And for that, the way now before Spring 21, we had simple emails, text emails that we could send with the email send action, or we could use unofficial SF components and stuff like that to send out emails using templates, the HTML templates. Now, what we can do with Spring 21 is we can create a text template and then use this text template as the body of our email. So we can say, this is my email body, and then we can start typing away. So in this example, what I want to write as an email, let me check my notes just a second, is so large opportunity alert. And the cool thing about this one is I can actually use colors, bold. For example, I can do this bold. This can be red. So, and I can insert resources. For example, I can say, I want to use the record name. Oops. There's a large opportunity title. This. That was updated, created, updated a week ago. Make sure it is discussed in the meeting. And if I want for reference, I can also enter the record ID here. And I can include an image. I can include an image here from my computer directly. I don't even have to use one of the static resources. I can include an image right directly off of my computer. So now, what I need to do is I need to add an action and find the send email action. And as the body, I can use the email body text template. Subject would be large opportunity alert. And I can send to multiple emails in a collection or comma separated values. Well, it says rich text formatted body over here. I guess that's where I need to add it. No, that's not what I added. I think I used this one before. I don't know what this one is for. So I'm going to hard code the email address here, which is obviously not best practice. I can look this up from a contact. But imagine that this is the email address for the manager. So I'm sending an email to the manager to warn the manager. And I don't know if you guys know Mailinator. This is an email, generic email platform where you can send emails to and then test things. So now when I do my path here, it knows I have only one path left in my, let's say, bucket of paths not used yet. And it just draws the 1 week later over here. It says 1 week later, but as you remember, it's going to run 1 hour later. So we have a couple of questions right here. So Neil says, not being able to use less than an hour in offset number is disappointing, but thanks for the workaround suggestion. Neil, I think somebody posted that. I think you can, like I said, you can create a date and time field, and then base your offset on that date and time field on the record. Charlie, for internal correspondence, would an email alert with chatter post be a better alternative? Yeah, I mean, you can do an email alert, you can do a chatter post, you can do all those things. I just wanted to demonstrate that, demonstrate the new HTML email functionality. That's why I use this one. With this new functionality, actually, Charlie, there is no reason for you to use workflows or process builder doing this kind of use case anymore. So I would just get used to using this instead of workflows or process builder. What you're going to love about this one is that we can actually see, like on a screen, all the different scheduled actions that are waiting to be executed. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's the same with workflow and process builder. Could be, but you're going to like this one. Just a second. Scheduled path. So let's save this one and activate. Okay, so we didn't end up with any errors. That's good. So I have opportunities already in the system. Let's take one of the opportunities that is a small opportunity. This one is with the amount $20,000. And it's in negotiation review stage. It's not closed yet. So I'm going to change this one, edit this one, and then change the amount to $101,000. So what's going to end up happening here, hopefully, is we go to activity, and then we click on view more because it only shows a few of those right here. It says take the opportunity to the bid review meeting. So this is the task that we have created. The owner is me. The due date is actually a little over 7 days, not 7 days. I think there is probably the time zone playing into this one. Maybe because of the time zone, it's calculating right now. Today is the 9th. It should be 16th, but it's already 17th. Probably time zone is playing into that one. So it's correct, the way we plan this one. Now, where can we see the scheduled actions off of this? Now, if we go to our settings, setup, and then go to workflow, time-based workflow, I'm going to say work for process flow name does not equal blank. And I'm going to see right here the peer scheduled path email flow that we have just created. It is scheduled to run at 9:22. So I saved and activated, ran that flow, and then I created that opportunity, updated that opportunity at 8:22 with my Eastern time, Eastern Standard Time. So 1 hour later at 9:22, this is going to run, this flow scheduled path is going to run. And if it doesn't generate any errors, it's going to send out the email. So as you can see over here, this is a past action. No, actually, yeah, this is another scheduled action that's waiting to be executed. That was actually 1 week. That was going to be that's scheduled to run 1 week after the original time I have created this one. So this one got generated during my previous testing period when I was preparing for the session. So I have already sent an email out to Mailinator if it came through. No, I have tested this one before, but that one apparently didn't find its way to the Mailinator system. So we are going to check the email here. Hopefully the email is going to get here, or we're going to receive an error. So we'll come back to check for the email and to test whether this executed correctly. So any questions so far? So we'll come back to this one at 9:22, right before the session is over, to see whether the email was sent. Hopefully it's not going to end up in an error. Okay, now let's go to our second use case. Our second use case was we wanted to create a flow which is a schedule triggered flow. I'm going to start freeform from the get-go here. So this flow, now the interesting thing about scheduled flows, the schedule triggered flows, is that they actually run on a predetermined date and time. So you need to give it a date and time. And another interesting fact about this date and time is that the date and time you're choosing here is going to be in the organization's time zone setting. So if your organization is in Eastern time, you need to plug in the date and time here in Eastern time, regardless of what your user time zone settings are. So it's not depending on the user, it's depending on the organization and the company. So let's say we want to run this one. And the interesting thing about this time selection here, it shows you 15-minute intervals, but it allows you to edit that number over here. So you are able to give it something like 8:37 or something, right? So let's initially say we want to run this one at 8:45 p.m. and we'll change it later. And you are able to choose once, daily, weekly. So this stuff is great for your cleanup or for your follow-up action that you want to run, let's say once a week, and then do some actions in your org. This is perfect for that. So what do I want this? What do I want this one to run on is the opportunity. So there are a couple of things I want to check here. One is the created date of the opportunity should be greater than, let's say, within the last 5 days, right? So that would be 2/4/2021. And it's going to assign automatically a time to it, 12 a.m. If you want to change that, you can change it. So I'm going to add additional conditions. I'm going to say the stage should not be, opportunity what's that called? Stage name? Yeah, it's called stage name. Stage name should not be clause 1. Right now it says equals, I know, but I'm going to work on that stuff in a moment. Stage name equals closed lost. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a custom condition logic here. Sometimes I do more complicated stuff easier this way. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the first one is true and the second or third one, I'll take the second and third one, and then the negative of that together with the first one should be true. This means this. It's a little bit complicated. So what this means is, so the created date is going to be greater than 4th of February, and the stage name cannot be either close 1 or close lost. So it can be any of the other stages. So this is what that means. So what I'm going to do here, Charlie's question is, how did you determine if the task was going to be one versus many records to create? So you're asking, Charlie, you're asking the question about this scheduled triggered flow, right? So the other interesting thing about scheduled triggered flow is when the scheduled triggered flow runs on the object that you said it's going to run, depending on the criteria, it's going to run on all of the opportunity records that fits the criteria at the previous flow. With the previous flow, one versus many records to create. Well, in the previous flow, Charlie, that was actually a record triggered flow. So whenever an opportunity was created or updated, it ran on that opportunity record. And when it ran on that opportunity record, it created only one task. There is no looping going on. So it created this one task, and then it is going to send an email a week after in the ideal use case. In our case, it's going to send the email in 1 hour. So that's how that's structured. It only is set up to send only, to create only one task and to send only one email per the opportunity record it triggers on. So let's go back to this one. Yeah, that's an interesting topic because here, let's go back to this one. With the schedule triggered flows, that's also an interesting one. You don't really have to find and grab all the opportunity records, add them to a collection, loop through them or something like that. So in this one, once you determine your entry criteria, it's going to take all the opportunities that fit this condition right here. And then it's going to run on all those opportunities on the previously set date and time that you have determined, right? So that's how this one works. So what I want to do is, the one thing that you need to be careful about this schedule triggered flows is whatever action you're going to take, you want to make sure that that action has not been taken before. So you don't end up in a situation, for example, you might create like a schedule triggered flow to send out emails, right? You want to make sure that that email has not been sent out already so that you don't spam people. Like, for example, you created a schedule triggered flow to run daily. You can create a task, or you can check a checkbox and then send out an email or something like that. And then next time you run that flow, your flow should check whether that checkbox has already been checked, that task has already been created or not, so that you don't do the same thing over and over again. So in this scenario, what we want to do is we want to determine the opportunities where there is no activity. So we want to remind people to call the prospect client when there is no activity. So we can say, you want to get activities on the opportunity record, right? Let me just check one thing. And for that, I am using the event object. And what ID of the opportunity would be equal to record ID, the opportunity ID. And the created date of this, I want to filter all the recent opportunities. In this use case, I want to check not recent opportunities, recent activities on the opportunity. In this use case, I want to check for any activities that have been done in the last month. And here, I want to create another resource formula that would be called 1 month ago formula. And I'm going to do something similar, date and time, insert flow current date and time, minus 30. So this is going to give me the date of 30 days ago from the time the flow is run. So I'm querying all the activities in the last month that are associated with this opportunity. Let's sort them descending order by created date. And it's enough for me to just find the first record, because I just want to check whether I find anything or not. If you've been to my previous sessions, I was actually getting one record and then checking the ID and then getting it again. That was not necessary. That I was reminded by Rebecca Rolls, there's a better way, so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to check whether there is a recent activity. And this is yes, recent activity. Outcome. And here, what I'm going to use is get activity is null, false. So if the get activity is not null, there is a recent activity. If it is null, there is no recent activity. So I'm checking this. This is the first thing I want to check. Is there already an activity on this opportunity for the last month or not? And then this, since I'm going to be running this weekly, I want to also check whether there is a task that I have already created last week that's closed already or not, right? So that's also something that I should check. Let me just add another get here. And I want to only go to this get if there is no recent activities. If there is a recent activity, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just terminate. So get tasks. And when getting tasks, what I'm going to be looking for is the created date again. Created date is greater than 1 month ago. In the last month, is there a task that has been closed of the type poll, and what ID of the task is the record ID, the opportunity ID? Is it associated with the opportunity? So I'm checking for that. Again, doing a descending create a date. And it's okay for me to get only the first record and automatically store all the fields. Now, when I'm drawing my path here, I want to only go to that path if there is no recent activity. If there is a recent activity, I don't want to create another task for the salesperson to call the client. This means that the salesperson is already working on this. Okay, so the question by Parvati is, shall we trigger the flow for a different date hard-coded, or so instead of trigger created date using formula? Flow for a different date hard-coded, or so instead of the trigger created date using formula. But we are triggering the flow already based on a hard-coded date. Parvati, I'm not exactly sure what the question is. So we are, and you cannot use a variable here. If that's what your question, you cannot use a variable. You have to use a hard-coded date. So date and time to trigger this scheduled flow. So again, we went down, we checked whether there are activities in the last month on the opportunity. If there are no activities, we wanted to check whether there are tasks we may have created last week when this ran that the salesperson has already closed. If they call the prospect client, they will close those. So we checked for that. Now we need a decision element to see whether that's the case. Closed task. No closed task. In which case get task would be true. So if there is no closed task, then what's going to end up happening is my get is going to come back null. And if there is already closed task, then it's going to end up in the default path. So let me draw my path here. And then what I want to do is, if there is no closed task, I want to create a task. So create task. One. Record task. I gotta use this, sorry. I want to give the values one by one. So what we want to do here is we want to, the owner is going to be the opportunity owner. What ID is going to be the record ID. I think I got it right. And the activity date is going to be 1 week from now, which I don't have created yet. So let me just do that. 1 week from now. Current date and time plus 7. And the subject will be call prospect client for engagement. And let's not forget, we actually checked for type call. So we want to make sure that this one is also task subtype call. And the status is going to be not started. So I'm going to assign not started here, and the salesperson is going to have to complete this. Right? So those are the things. Did I forget something? I think I did not assign the owner, right? So the owner also needs to be oh yeah, I did assign the owner. It's up here. I'm sleeping. It was not in my vision. Okay, so say done. Draw this path over here. So when am I going to create a task? When there is no closed task. If there is a closed task already, that's recent. I don't want to create another task for the salesperson to do something about it. If they have the task from last week open, they haven't closed it, I'm going to create another task. I'm going to be dunning them. Charlie's leaving. All right. Charlie, see you. Check the recording hopefully later. You are welcome. So let's save this one. call this one peer scheduled flow, scheduled triggered flow. Save. Now, it's going to tell me this flow can't run because it has a scheduled start date that's already passed. Because originally we set the time at 8:45. Now we are at 8:48, right? So I'm going to change this here I can change it to 9, but I don't have to go that far. I tested this before. I can actually change this one to 8:50, type it, and it actually works. Done. Let's double check. 8:50, yes. Save and activate. Now you might ask, where do I find this stuff? Like, once I set this up, can I see it somewhere? Yes, we can actually see it under scheduled jobs. If we go to scheduled jobs, next to some other systems jobs, we are going to see that our peer scheduled triggered flow version 1, created by me and submitted at 8:49, which is the time now, and it is going to run at 8:50, is waiting and sitting here to kick in. Let's see if we received an email here. Unfortunately, we didn't receive an email. Where are we? When was the email supposed to go? The email was supposed to go at 9:22 p.m. So we still have some time to go if we make it there. So let's see if the other stuff has run or not. Let's go to scheduled jobs again. So this one already started, and it started at 8:50. Right now it's 8:51. So let's see what that did for us. Let's go here and then check tasks. Okay, now I see I have created 4 tasks on 4 different opportunities, right? And these are called the opportunity 282828 and the version 234 and 1 small. Let me go to my opportunities view. And if I look at my opportunities, I actually have 5 opportunities here, but I only got 4 tasks. So it didn't run on this one. The reason why it didn't run on this one is the stage for this opportunity is closed one. So we had in our filter that the opportunity should not be in closed one or closed last stage. If it was in that stage, the scheduled triggered flow wouldn't run on it, shouldn't run on it. So we had also in our criteria to check whether there was an activity already in the last month or not. So here we don't have a past activity, but what we can do here to test that, we can actually go inside this activity that I have created, and I don't have to go inside, actually, I can do it here. I want to change the status of this activity to completed. So let's say I'm the salesperson for the opportunity 2.8 large version 4, and I have followed up on that one already. And let me just also create a follow-up for version 3. Now here you see also our other record triggered scheduled path in action. They are both creating tasks here. But these tasks are not completed. Let me just double check. It's not started. This is the one I just created. And this one is also not started. To test this one, I'm not going to complete these tasks. I'm going to just log a call. Log a call and say old client. Check. Save. So what this is actually an activity, a recent activity under the opportunity that we are checking for. If I go into this activity, I see that it's completed. And it's a call. It's a recent activity. So if we run this schedule triggered flow one more time, my opportunity version 3 shouldn't get another follow-up task either. So 3 and 4 shouldn't get any. Version 2 would get one, and small would get one. So let's run our scheduled job one more time to see that in action. So to do that, we can deactivate this one and then change the time from 8:50 to 8:56. That's too close. Let's do that 8:57 just in case. Done. And then save as, save, and activate. Yes, we are already at 8:56. So let's check our scheduled jobs. So in our scheduled jobs, we see that this version 2 flow is going to run at 8:57, and it was actually submitted at 8:56. So we have one more minute to go. So we'll check that in about a minute. My clock shows already 57. Let's see if it ran already. Yeah, it looks like it started. Now I need to go to all opportunities. And go into the large version 4. Now I see in this one I have 2 follow-up tasks. The reason for that one being is this one is not started and the other one has been completed. So there is something not right. It should actually check for the completed one that didn't run correctly. Let me check the other ones as well. Let me just do opportunities. So this one is not started. Is this the most recent one, or? So this one ran at 8:57. This is the most recent one. And this one is the previous one, and it's completed. So our decision criteria over there is not actually working correctly. So we need to double check that. And let's see if the activity part works correctly. Now, if I log an activity, a completed activity, so that one actually did not work either. So it added another please call prospect for client engagement, although we have an activity here. Yes. So what is it that's not working? Let's go to our scheduled flow again. Let's double check a couple of things. So we said we want to get the opportunities with the created date of 2/4/2021. Let me just double check with my notes. That's correct. So does not equal close won or close lost. That's correct. So we are checking getting the activities, and the activities equals that record opportunity. And we have our 1 month ago formula, greater than 1 month. Descending created date. That's right. Our decision is going to check event from get activities is null. If it's not null, there is a recent activity. If it's null, there is no recent activity. So if there is no recent activity, I want to check also for the tasks. And the way I check for the tasks is the created date is greater than 1 month ago. The status is, okay, here is the problem. It's not closed, it's completed. Type call and dot record opportunity. That's correct. So check decision. If the task from get task is null, then there is no closed task. If it's yes, there is closed task. So if there is no closed task, then I want to create a task. So we know this one works because we created the task before. So what didn't work is this part. And the activity part didn't work either, I think, but I didn't see any problem with that. So let's save this one as a new version again. So it's going to tell me that the date is in the past. So let's do this one at 9. Let's run this one at 9:04. Yes. So this is what happens, you know, sometimes things get messy, and it's very important to try and find what the issue is. It's hard to troubleshoot sometimes. So we'll see if we can get this one sorted. Now this one, let's check this one in our scheduled jobs. It shows already that it started. And let's look at our tasks. I want to check it on my tasks view first. So if I go to my tasks view and then sort this one by the tasks created, I see that there are only 2 created. Do you see it over here? The last modified date right here. I should probably use the created date, but I don't know why I added last modified, but in this case, it doesn't matter. So I have only created 2 tasks this time. And one is on opportunity 2.8 small. The other one is on opportunity 2.8 large version 2. So let's see why that is, if that worked as designed. I think it did. Opportunities. And then if I sort my opportunities based on the created date, the most recent ones. So opportunity 2.8 large version 4. If I open this one, I see that one is not started. One of the tasks is not started. The other one is completed. Because the second one is completed, I didn't get a third one, right? Because I ran this thing 3 times. The second one, it didn't run the way I wanted, but still I ran it 3 times. So here I see, if I do a view more, I see that I have created 2, but I didn't create a third one because I had a recent activity that I have created under this opportunity already, which is the call, right? So this one also worked correctly. So if I look into this one, view more, I see there are already 3 created. Why is it that way? So I go into the first one, the task is not started. I go into the second one, the task is not started. I go into the third one, the task is not started. So this salesperson is being really bad. So they get, every time I run this, like, and you know, I plan to run this one weekly, they are going to get a dunning task saying you need to call the client until they complete them or close them, whatever. So this one is not going to get any because it's in close one stage. So this call client for engagement is coming from my previous tests. You know, that's not the subject I've been using. So that didn't get it. Let's check this one. This one got 3 of them. Let's check whether there is any tasks that are completed. No. No, not completed, and there is no recent activity either. And those are the 5 opportunities that are created after the date 4th of February. So, you know, those are the ones that I've been working on. So as you can see, the scheduled flow ran correctly this time. So let me show you just very briefly how the email looks like, because I don't think it makes sense for us, unless you have a lot of questions. Please go ahead and put in your questions. I'll answer your questions. But I'm going to show you in the meantime from Twitter, when I was testing yesterday, how the email looks like. That the HTML-based email looks like. Okay, so here is, I shared this one already on Twitter. Here is the email that's very similar to what we have created. So this is the email that you will get. Here is the image. This is the record ID. And in that email example, I used the opportunity title, and I used also the opportunity amount that filled in. You can see the red and the bold and the underline. You can use all that. So this is the new HTML-based send email action that you can use. Another interesting thing that you might want to know as well, this is the new new debug that's coming in Spring 21. So whenever you have a problem, you have an error in your flow, you get an email, right? As the admin, you get an email, and your email was like super long. Like you had to go through all the details one by one to try to find where the issue is. Now, when I first created the schedule triggered flow, the schedule triggered flow was running on 8 records, and on all of those records, I think the send email or something failed, or the task creation, something failed. So I got this error email with 8 different links. And these links are active when you click on those links. Oh, I remember now, the get failed here. Once you click on any of those links, you go to a visual representation of what failed, and it shows you where the path took you on your flow. And then it shows you also what the error is. So this is brand new. This is also Spring 21. We didn't have this one before. This is going to be very helpful as well, to be able to see visually and immediately where the error occurred in your flow. Any questions? I guess there are no questions. Then let me just close the session, because we still have not come to the point where the email was going to be sent. Thank you very, very much. Thanks for joining. Have a good night. Bye-bye.